One thing missed in Ryan Poles' comments in regards to the offensive line is that an extension for Joe Thuney could be coming soon. What would the Chicago Bears have to do to free up space for an extension for Joe Thuney? We'll talk a little bit about that, plus more on the Nick Chubb rumors and the mailbag right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bears Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bears news and content.
What's going on, Bears fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bears Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related. I'm the host, Sarah Hayes, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Chi Bears Central on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that being said, let's go and get into this content for today, y'all. And I want to start off with Ryan Poles and some more comments. We know he was on the radio yesterday in which he brought up those comments in regards to Ozzie Trapilo being on the left side, and really invigorated those things that Trapilo could be the starting left tackle for the Chicago Bears. But with that said, there is another player that is important to the Chicago Bears that, many people are asking what's going on, what happens with that. So Ryan Poles provided a bit of a contract update in regards to Joe Thuney, one of the players that we did trade for, a veteran on that offensive side of the ball. And when it comes down to it, it seems like right now is that he was on the Cap and J Hood show, and he talked about it. He said, I hope it's not too long in regards to a contract extension being done sooner rather than later with Joe Thuney. I hope that it's not too long. As I said the other day, it's a priority. I have a great relationship with Joe as well as Mike McCarthy, his agent. We'll have conversations and see what makes sense for both sides. I love Joe. I love what he brings. I know he's excited to be here, so we'll see if we can work something out in the near future. Now, Joe Thuney's 32 years old, which has brought a lot of thought from some Bears fans in regards to how long is Joe Thuney really going to be here? And I think, even if you extend him, when you look at the Bears and kind of where they've overlapped everything with the offensive line, that even in Jonah Jackson, is that you're looking at about 2026-27, right? You're extending them out about 2 years, right? So there's 3 years, including this year. And that's probably what the Bears are trying to do. And I think that makes a lot of sense for Thuney as well, right? And with his age and things like that, to have, some security up until that point. But the Bears are going to have to free up some salary cap space in regards to that as well. And they have the ability to do that, right? You have Ryan Bates here still under contract. You got Dominique Robinson still under contract. Right? Those are two players that you can definitely waive to create a little bit more space, right? And that's what the Bears are really going to have to do. Starting guards are getting expensive. You look at the average annual salary for a starting guard is around $20 million, right? Joe Thuney at 32 years old, you're probably looking at a 2 or 3 year extension worth $16 to $20 million annually. So that is something that the Bears do have to look at, right? Now, you also, in that time over that contract, would have to extend Darnell Wright. Luckily, we'll see what happens with Braxton Jones, but you're looking at probably Ozzie Trapilo being the starting left tackle. And so that means that you're not going to have to work out a contract extension with him anytime soon, right? So, and then you also got to look at Caleb Williams, right? You're going to have to, the Bears are probably preparing to give him that 3 year extension when it comes up and he's eligible for that. So all those things are going in the Bears' favor in regards to them trying to look at, an extension to Joe Thuney. But I think overall it's going to get done. I think it makes a lot of sense for both sides. I think a veteran like Thuney, being a part of what we're building here in Chicago, being under Ben Johnson, having Dan Rouchar there, and you like the Bears are going to draft some guards. We drafted a guard in this one in Newman, but they're going to bring in some other guards as well. And when it comes down to that, I think overall, it's going to get worked out. I'm not really too worried about it. It's going to get worked out. Joe Thuney will probably be here for a while, and we'll see what continues to happen here for the Chicago Bears, right? But let me know what you guys think down below. As the offensive line is really taking shape, and we're still going to see a while until it takes shape, fully, because you're going to have to get through training camp and things like that. But, it seems like the starting offensive line is going to be Drew Dahlman at center. You have Thuney and Jonah Jackson as your guards. You have Darnell Wright and Ozzie Trapilo as your tackles, depending on, they're still up in there if they're going to move sides or anything like that. But I think overall, man, the Bears' offensive line is really, it's stepped up quite a bit. It's stepped up quite a bit, and that's where you want it to be at, man. I mean, I'm not mad at where the offensive line is. I know, a lot of Bears fans wanted to see, a more clear left tackle taken that just sits Braxton Jones down, but you drafted a tackle in the second round, right? You expect that guy to, at very minimum, be a big part of your rotation, and at most, you expect him to be a starter, and hopefully a really adequate plus starter to where you're not even worried about it going forward. So, Trapilo's going to have his role, and Braxton's going to have his role too. Even if Braxton Jones does not have his starting position this year, he's still going to play swing tackle. You're still going to see a lot of Braxton Jones out there, and you may actually see the things that he's able to do kind of maximize that what he does well and hopefully mitigate some of those things like penalties because he's not going to be out there as much, but he's still going to get plenty of snaps when it comes down to it. We'll see what happens with it, right? Now, let's move on from that to the Bears UDFAs. Now, I did a video for each of the Bears UDFAs that we dropped on the channel over the course of the last week. It's been a week basically since the draft. Tomorrow will be a week since the last day of the draft, which is crazy when you look at everything that's happened for the Bears and things since then. But the one, when you look at some of the undrafted free agents, the one that's been named as the most likely to make the roster is surprisingly Power Echols. Now, maybe that's not surprising, right? You look at what he brings potentially to a 53-man roster where you still have questions over your linebacker rotation. That makes sense when it comes down to it. He was also the highest ranked UDFA signing by the Chicago Bears as well. He was ranked as the 12th best UDFA on the market after the draft. And so you're adding a linebacker to a linebacking group that's weak behind your two starters. Like, we don't know what Noah Sewell is going to be yet, right? We don't know that for 100%. Certainty yet. So bringing in Power Echols, who's 5'3", 237 pounds. We know they drafted Hippolyte as well, but I honestly would not be surprised if Power Echols may be higher than Hippolyte on the depth chart when it comes down to it. I wouldn't be surprised with that. Power Echols brings a lot of tenacity to that Chicago Bears linebacking crew. When it comes down to it, he's had 100 tackles or higher in 2 of his 3 seasons in college, right? And that's just, you look at what this guy can bring. He's a senior. He broke up 6 passes when it came down to it as well. Like in last season, like, this is a guy that he has, like, I'm not comparing him to Jack Sanborn, but I think when you look at the potential of a UDFA making your final roster, you're looking at that trajectory maybe for Power Echols. So hearing that Power Echols has been named as the Bears player most likely to make the final 53-man roster, it really doesn't surprise me. When you watch this kid's tape, you see a guy that brings all that tenacity, the execution. He hunts out plays on the defensive side of the ball. He has really good anticipation. That really stood out on his tape to me. So Power Echols, if he ends up making the final 53-man roster, I wouldn't be too shocked at that. That's a good move for the Chicago Bears. But before we get into the mailbag, I do want to talk about one last topic. That's the Nick Chubb situation, right? It's really a situation and a topic that's really everybody's kind of talking about now because it makes a lot of sense for the Bears to bring in a veteran. You weren't able to get your running back of the future unless Kyle Monangai ends up being that guy, which you look at Monangai's tape, kind of convince you that he may be that guy. But with that said, you're going to bring in a veteran, and because the Bears are in a situation where they are trying to win now, it may make some sense to take a risk on Nick Chubb. Now, I think that the situation plays itself out. The money is going to have to be there, right? As far as he's not going to command a lot of money. You can sign him as a stopgap option for you as of right now, where you figure out what Ian Willer is, where you find out what Kyle Monangai is. Hell, maybe even while you try to find out what exactly Roshan Johnson's going to be as a new coaching staff's coming in, as he's going into his 3rd year. So there's those questions as well, right, for this team. And so if you bring in Nick Chubb and he's healthy, that's the key thing here. If Nick Chubb is going to be healthy, then yes, you bring him in here. Now, I've known and seen some people like, oh my God, the injuries, he's washed. Some people have said that. And that's up to the Bears to make sure if they're going to bring in somebody like that he's going to be able to perform for the team, right? Yannick Ngakoue did not really work out for the Bears. He just didn't, right? He didn't work out for the Bears. Whatever was going on there, he did not work out for the Bears. So, when you make your 1-year deals, I think Keenan Allen last year, even though he was a trade rather than a free agent acquisition, he paid dividends for Caleb Williams. He became one of Caleb Williams' safety nets. He had a solid season per what the Bears offense overall was really struggling. So, you have those two different things you can look at there. We'll see how that pays off for the Bears. If they do bring in Nick Chubb, I would just hope that meant that they feel comfortable about the money. They're not signing him to anything extremely long term, and they've done their due diligence on the medicals to make sure he's going to be able to stay healthy here while he's a member of the Chicago Bears. Again, that's hope. I hope that the Bears aren't doing anything foolish, but we shall see, right? But it is Friday. That means it is mailbag day. Let's go ahead and get into these voicemails, man. This first one that we got today, this one is from Darius.
What's going on, guys? Darius from Dallas. I just called to annoy the shit out of Hayes one more time with a switching positions proposal. I got to give you at least one of those, every 2 weeks. I got to give you one of those bi-weekly, Hayes, just to kind of keep you on your toes and frustrate you a little bit. But yeah, man. So I of course, I don't like having to watch 670 to score clips and all that Chicago media bullshit because I don't like them for the most part. Y'all know how I feel about that. I saw what they were talking about, this whole left tackle situation. I think it's pretty much written that Braxton Jones, he's at least going to have heavy competition. He is not written in as a left tackle from what it seems for sure. So, I just want to know it because a couple of guys have, the Chicago media have thrown it out there about Darnell Wright switching to left, and just putting Trapilo at right. Now, from what I heard, I mean, goddamn, Trapilo's 6'8", 315. So it ain't like he's some easy motherfucker to move. And he's got them nice big long arms that we were so critical with Campbell coming out of the draft. And he's athletic. Seems like he at least has some good footwork. He can move well for his size. Like he really is like a power forward, playing the tackle position. And I think with Dan Roshar, giving him some better coaching, I think that kid can end up being pretty solid. It seems like his only weakness is he just needs to stay low. And I think through repetition, Dan Roshar can easily fix that. From the tape, I didn't see him getting bull rushed into the quarterback or anything like that, so I think he's got some pretty good strength. But do y'all think who is more athletic from what y'all see? Maybe, and I know Steve-O like breaking out them offensive linemen. Maybe he can chime in on this. Who do y'all think will make the easier transition? Like, do you go with Darnell Wright over to left tackle, making the easier transition just because he's probably a little bit more athletic, maybe has a little bit better feet? Or do you just keep Darnell where he is since you've got good production out of him there and put Trapilo at left? My opinion, I want more experience on my quarterback's blind side. So if they are considering switching positions, go and put Darnell Wright over there. I trust Darnell Wright to be able to stay in front of whoever they put over there. I want Darnell Wright matched up against Aiden Hutchinson. I want Darnell Wright matched up against Will Anderson and basically all the premier pass rushing guys. So let me know what y'all think, man. I think we need to go Darnell Wright left tackle, Trapilo right tackle, and we're ready to roll. Texas up, there down.
Listen, this is probably one of your more reasonable as far as position switches, but I think that Ryan Poles' words, I know you left this before yesterday. If it's to be taken as at face value, which I still think Ben Johnson, Dan Rushar are going to have the final say on that. But Trapilo will be at the left tackle spot. But your thought process between, wanting to protect your quarterback's blind side with a more kind of trusted thing and moving Darnell right over to that left side, if that ends up being the case, I think you laid out the exact reasons why the Bears would do that and why it makes sense. Overall, I think it comes down to your confidence level. And, I said it as this before in a live stream, is that it's about the upside at that point. Like, how much do you benefit from now and in the future starting Trapilo? Even if he has some areas of the game, maybe where Braxton is more polished at right now, again, as he should be, as long as he's been in the NFL going into his fourth year, so he should be that, right? But if you see Trapilo as having the higher upside, right, is the question is, and I got to give this bar went to Pat, the designer. He said that, is Ozzie Trapilo's floor Braxton Jones' ceiling? And if that's what you think, then yeah, you start Ozzie Trapilo, right? I think that's just what comes down to, regardless of what side it is. You start Ozzie Trapilo if that's the case. And, we'll see what training camp, mini camp goes through. And I wouldn't be surprised if we start hearing a lot of positivity around Ozzie Trapilo and what he's bringing to this Bears team, especially if he's going to end up being the starter on that front line for the Chicago Bears. But you guys can let me know how you feel on that down below. All right, let's get into the next one, man. This one's from Vaughn.
Yo, CBC, Chicago Bears Central. What's the word, man? It's your boy, Big Vaughn, on the low end, calling in to tap in with y'all guys. And, man, it's been a minute. Man. Life been lifing, work been working, but we back at it, man. What's going on with y'all guys? We about to get right into it. The 2025 NFL Draft has finally come to an end, and picks have been made. And, man, the Chicago Bears it looks like we headed in the right direction, guys. It looks like we headed in the right direction. Real quick, I'm going to try to make this brief. I love the picks right off the back. Colston Loveland, good tight end. That boy get wild. He get freaky. He could separate at the top of routes. You hear me? He ain't got to wait to break and, you know what I'm saying, wait for Caleb Williams to be running for his life. He's going to get open immediately. Like, I see that right off the back from the tape. Pick number 2, Luther Brendan III. Luther Brendan III. We might have to call him LB3. Hey, wonderful talent, explosive. I'm going to tell y'all this, hot take. DJ Moore, you can count your days, kid. You're not a Ben Johnson guy. Ben Johnson got his guy. He know what type of player he is. He's a diva. I'm going to call it out, y'all. He's a diva. I've seen it on tape at times. If he feel like he don't get the ball, he lose focus. You know what I'm saying? He out there, he ain't blocking as hard, but Ben Johnson going to set a precedent. No block, no rock. You already know what it is. And the reason he brought Randall L over here is for him to keep these guys in line. He'll be our J-Mo. LB3, he'll be our J-Mo. You know what I'm saying? The next pick, I believe who we got. Did we get my boy Big Dog from Texas A&M, Shamar? I believe we got Shamar. We got the offensive lineman. I'm gonna go with Shamar Turner. Dog, play everywhere on the line. Beast. He was getting busy when Nick Scourton was over there and them boys, and they was getting wild. He still had production. Dog, Big Ozzie Trapilo. Hey, biggest lineman that's in the draft. Big 6'8", Mammoth. Monster, he gonna move people, and he's super intelligent. I can see him, like picking Joe Thuney's brain, and I can see him, like really, really building a bond with guys like Drew Dahlman. You know what I'm saying? He's gonna learn a lot. That was a steal for us, dog. That was a steal. Who else? I like the little running back we got. I like him. Rutgers running back always run hard. He's a guy who run hard. He's a guy who do not drop the football. Ball security is everything. DeAndre Swift, count your days, my boy. To sum it all up, hey, fantastic job. Ben Johnson say it's not going to be easy, and it's not. He's challenging his coaches right off the back with these picks. That's what I believe in, man. Hey, great passer, y'all. I'm excited. Hey, y'all, let me know what the word is, man. Chicago up, head out. Y'all know I love y'all, boy.
Listen, I don't know if Luther Brendan has anything to do with DJ Moore. I've seen a lot of people do that, and you guys know my thought process on that is, as men, sometimes we make sports our soap operas. But Luther Brendan is a slot, and he's a true slot in every sense of the word, right? And I think that not to say that the upside, because you never know how a player is going to develop. Maybe he can round out some of those things where he can be better on the outside, but right now he's not that. So I don't think it's DJ Moore, count your days. I think that is you brought in somebody that can help make the game easier on DJ and easier on Rome, and you also have that in Zacchaeus as well. So I think all those things are going to play a part into the Chicago Bears, wide receiver core being really, really good. And that's something that, that's what you want to see from the Bears. That's what you want to see under Ben Johnson's offense. I don't think it's about replacing yet now. It's about refining, identifying, and evaluate. Now, if they figure out that DJ Moore doesn't fit in Ben Johnson's offense, which I don't think that's true either, right? But if that ends up being the case, then okay, you move on. But I don't think Luther Brendan is the thing that you can look at and say, oh yeah, they're moving on from DJ because of Brendan. I just don't think that, right? Now, I do think overall, like the Bears, to your point though, they've done a really good job in this draft. A lot, when you really step back and look at these picks, like I said, Hippolyte's probably the one that's the biggest question mark in my personal opinion. But everyone else, it makes sense. Like especially when you look at their draft position as well, and what needs to happen with them to get to the place of being consistent contributors for the Chicago Bears. And you trust this coaching staff. Trust this coaching staff to identify and develop these guys, and we'll see where it all shakes out, in my opinion. But great voicemail there, Vaughn. Thank you for leaving that. Let's get into this next one, man. This one's from Keys.
Yo, what's up? It's your boy Keys, man, on this lovely Tuesday. Hope all is well with you and yours, but let's get to it. A lot of noise being made about Nick Chubb being added to the offense. And when you really think about it, looking at Ben Johnson, he really liked to add to the pieces that he already got. I'm not saying that the pieces that we had aren't like efficient or good, but hey, he's like an embarrassment of riches, as they call it, right? So I look at it and I say to myself, man, the only thing that really worries me about Nick Chubb is the injury history, right? Because it's like, hey, we We don't want to add to nothing that's going to hold us back. But then I also look at it as a caveat that Nick Chubb doesn't have to come in to be the number one back to me at this current junction of his career. He could be that complementary piece that we add, although I think he would be better than Swift in some ways, but Swift would be the number one guy just off of the money and everything else. But he would be we need something that's going to complement DeAndre Swift. Now, Kyle Monunga, I've watched his film too. Dude, he don't fumble. And he run hard for his size, 5'8", 211. You know, you think about Swift, I think he's 5'9", 210. But then you bring in Chubb. Chubb is 5'11", 220. And the boy got thighs that look like tree trunks. Pause. But, you know, man, it'd be tough to tackle him. I would say I would love to have him on his team. Although Roschon, you know, he's supposed to be that bell cow. I just worry about his head injuries. Same thing, like, it's apples and oranges with the two guys that I see. Now, if there's anybody that I would love the Bears to go and get that's actually coming up, and he'll be due for a contract next year, I think he could be a good complement to this offense. I would love to see Bryce Hall here, or Breece Hall, I think that's how you say it, for the New York Jets. He had the ACL injury, but after that, he came back, and he had a pretty good year. Now, he's never rushed for over 1,000, but he's a damn good back where he can hit the hole, he can run away from folks, and the dude know how to catch. But let me know what you guys think. As always, cha-cha on up, bear down.
I said a lot about the Nick Chubb thing, right? I do think it comes down a lot to the money, to the health, and I think that's what it's ultimately about. You know, we did hear yesterday that the Browns could be interested in keeping Nick Chubb, but then you look at the fact they drafted Dylan Sampson and Quashon Judkins. That really doesn't make sense for unless they just don't trust those guys, which, you know, it is what it is there, right? But overall, I think that if Chubb ends up being the guy and you bring him in here, he fits in with some of what you did. The contracting styles with DeAndre Swift, right? You use Roschon as more of a specialist at that point in time. But I think at that point you have a solid enough running back room, right? I think also the upgrades on the offensive line, to my boy Crimson's points that he likes to make a lot, is that you're going to get better out of your running game initially anyway, just because of having a better run blocking offensive line. And you've made upgrades and huge strides in those areas. So I think overall the Bears running game is going to be fun to watch. I think it's going to be fun to see the balance of, even if we don't add Nick Chubb, but if we do, and Nick Chubb is healthy, whew, that's going to be dangerous. All right, let's move into this next one, man. This one is from this next one is from Kevin.
Hey, what's up? This is Kevin calling from Northside. I was having an idea on why I believe the Bears did a trade down from 39 to like 35 to try to get one of the running backs. LB3 Luther Brendan III, I believe I'm pronouncing that right. He's actually got 34 career carries for 234 yards. Comes up to about 7 yards a carry. So my point is that maybe they kind of seen, instead of trading more picks, they kind of looked at drafting LB3 as maybe like a two-way player, that you got a receiver and a guy that can carry the ball, and maybe that's why they wasn't so desperate to draft one of the running backs, like Caleb Johnson or Trevion Henderson or whatever was left on the board, and they took a shot at 7 with the guy from from Rucker. But yeah, I believe that LB3 is going to have a very big part in the running game. And I'm just really happy that the first 2 draft picks of this season definitely showed that the Chicago Bears went away from their old tradition of let's run the ball 34 times and have our defense get an interception at the end of the game and we'll win 26-24. And we'll win 19-17. You know, it's great to have that mentality on the defense, that attitude on the defense, but it's 2024. People are dropping 34 points like it's nothing. So, you know, Chicago Bears is going to have to, it'll be great. See, this is where they should become the Super Bowl team. They need to be the dynamite team they are in defense, like they lose their whole franchise. And if you just get a little offense, maybe 27 points a game around that, you could be looking at an 11-win team, get in the playoffs, see what happens. So that's what I wanted to say. My point is that I think the reason why they didn't trade back down is because they looked at LB3 as a two-way player, as like Ben Johnson said. I'm out of bread, I'm walking. Like Ben Johnson said, we look at players, some players, as a tool. How good are they? You're not trying to just look at them as a position. LB3 could be used in multiple ways. Jet sweeps, running the ball, screens, deep passes, and that's what's going to make him dangerous. He's just a real dangerous player. That's all I have to say. Thanks for taking my message.
I think Luther Burden was going to be on the board regardless, Kevin. I think that they were going to have, whether they drafted him at 39th or they drafted him at 41. I think Luther Burden was already somebody on their board. That's why you didn't see them pivot from that spot. Now, you got to remember, Henderson was already off the board, right? So they wouldn't have traded back for Henderson, and they could have had any of those running backs that went after that because they were basically all on the board when the Chicago Bears drafted. So I think that's something that you got to look at when it comes down to that also. But, ultimately, Luther Burden is going to be a weapon. I don't know if they didn't go running back because of Luther Burden, but I do think that they probably looked at it and said, listen, we've upgraded our offensive line. We feel like we can get enough out of the run game. You can get creative in using Burden because he's been compared to Deebo Samuel, and I do think you're going to see some of that. But I don't know if that pick alone is why they didn't go after running back or trade up for a running back. I don't think that that's the reason why, but I do think, hell, now you may have opened a spot for Luther Burden to get creative in, and you guys know positionless football starting to become a thing, so we'll see what happens with that. But great voicemail there, Kevin. Let's get into the last one for today. This one's from my boy Greedy.
Yo, this is Greedy, man. I just want to make a couple comments, man, on the Bears organization right now. Man, I told y'all I was trusting Pose, man. I feel like Pose, and he did a good job with just rebuilding and revamping his team. I just don't like the media attention because now it's putting a lot of pressure on our team. I feel like last year, that's kind of what made us fumble, crumble a little bit. So, I don't really too much like the media attention because where was they at when we was losing? But, I like the fact that the Bears, they put depth pieces on the O-line and D-line. I like that part about it. We still got good skill position players, but the depth, we didn't upgrade it and turned, we upgraded our O-line. We upgraded our D-line. We got more depth now. And I feel like that's a key point that we need because last year, Matt Pryor, I know people were like, oh, Karen was trash, but Karen ain't had no training camp, so I get him. And he was a rookie. Matt Pryor gets Detroit, man, that man gave up 3 sacks and 3 pressures in a row. You know what I'm saying? He getting pressure just straight to the quarterback. And I'm like, man, when Darnell Wright went down, I was like, man, this is crazy. And it's just like, now with Ozzie, we picking up these other depth pieces on the line. I feel like that's key.
Having depth in the trenches is hugely important. And the Bears, and that was one of the things coming into this draft that I did say, the Bears went out and added a lot of that depth that you need. Now, is it going to be quality depth, right? That's the thing that we're going to have to see how these players that the Bears drafted that don't, are going to come in here and be able to give quality depth in year one. But, the Bears have done that. Even making out Andrew Billings a swing defensive tackle by pushing him by bringing in Grady Jarrett, right? That adds tremendous depth there because we already saw the impact that Big Billings had last year as a starter, right? You then also add to that Shamar Turner now coming in there as some depth there. Yeah, you got depth at that position. Then you look at the offensive line, right? Regardless of however that shakes out, Ozzie Trapilo starting at left or right tackle, whatever happens there, right? But then if you make Braxton Jones a depth piece, good. Karen Amagaje is a guy that they're going to still want to look at. Bill Murray's still there, right? Ryan Bates is still there as of right now. So you've added some of that. Theo Benedict as well. Don't overlook Theo Benedict and the Bears of how high they are on him with keeping him around after his injury. The Bears have added some really good depth here with the moves that they've made, and we're going to see how that depth. But depth in the trenches is really important for teams, especially if you want to win at a high level. And the Bears went out and added some of that depth in the trenches, and let's see how that pays off for the Bears next year. But that's my time for today, guys. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Make sure you guys are following us at Shy Bears Central. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns. ChicagoBearsCentral@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, if you want to leave a voicemail, the number to do so, 773-242-9336. We are the number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related, but that's thanks to you lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, Chi-Town up, but bear down. Love you guys. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.